Hi, I'm Alan Ross, and we are at Distributech 2025. We've got interviews with thought leaders, and we'd love for you to see what we've done here. Hey, thanks for joining us. And so I get here, and I see right next to me Scott MacKenzie with Industrial Talk, who's an old friend.
The one and only, but I get to see you. I get to see you, too, that you photobombed me when I was doing
I'm so sorry.
That's it's a podcast. It's supposed to be all about humans.
And you took advantage of it, because I knew you knew that it was a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me why you were here at we're at the Distributech 2025, right? I see you at these industrial and commercial events. So I've done some podcasting with you.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I think what you do is amazing and brilliant. So you're here in the utility industry at Distributech 2025. Why? Who's sponsoring you to do this?
Siemens is sponsoring me.
Excellent.
That's one.
Yeah.
That's one. Two, we work with Clarion, and Clarion provides us a little real estate. That's great. But more importantly, what's so cool is my background is utilities. I was a journeyman.
I know that about you.
Lineman, splicer, transmission. So I geek out on this stuff. So I love to see what is taking place within the industry as a whole, right? Because the reality is that I'm pretty, my old school thinking, I'm pretty linear in my understanding of the utilities, right? It was power generation, transmission, substation, distribution, end consumer, whatever it might be, using powder. Nothing fancy.
Ratepayer. They weren't consumer.
That's right. That's right. They weren't customers. They were always ratepayers. Very yucky.
Yeah, very.
But anyway, so that was always my understanding.
Right.
But today, the industry is going through this incredible renaissance. The demand for power is going through the roof, right? And it's great to see how these companies, all these companies, 600, I don't even know how many.
I think 850.
850?
Yeah.
A lot. Have some sort of solution to help transition us to that, whatever that next level is.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It blows my mind.
You know, this is probably my 7th Distributech, 6.
You've seen it grow.
Yeah, I've seen it change, a sea change, especially this one, because what's happening in the industry is the problems are so great now that the utilities, whether you're a utility and here's the next thing that's going to come is you're going to see more and more people say, I can't depend on you anymore, or the utility go and say, you can't depend on me anymore. You got to figure out what you're going to do. So you're going to see all kinds of unique ways of building this grid out. The grid that we're building today is not the same grid that that you and I are used to in that linear approach. The other thing is there's a thing about linear thinking, because you've done a lot of podcasting here at this event, and this is what it used to be. Like, I got in as an engineer, right?
Right.
And it was this. I would be asked, hey, we got a problem, come and do it. And I was in telecom at AT&T.
Yep.
And I would go and I get to talk to the people who had the problem. We could develop a solution. And we want to make a $2.5 million pitch. This was 30 years ago to solve that problem. We could do that. Today, it's this. Hey, I want this from the purchasing department, the procurement department. I can't even see the engineer. And what they're asking for is not going to solve their problem, but I can't tell them that. You know, I just have to pitch on it. And then the next guy and the next guy. So we made it a transactional thing. It's swung back the other way. Now they've opened the doors and the engineers get to decide. And the engineers are the ones that know the problems, right? And the engineers get to decide. So it's created this collaborative, what I would say, outcomes-based industry in literally the last 2 to 3 years. Scott, it's I don't know how many times have you done Distributech?
This is, I want to say, third.
Okay, so you've been part of that transition.
Yeah.
And we don't see a lot of utilities here. When I was at a conference recently and I did a lot of utility interviews, the same thing for all of them. We need the vendor marketplace to help collaborate with us to create the outcomes that we need to happen, because we don't even know how to do it.
See, we don't. Yeah. And everybody is venturing down. There's this demand. the demand for power. And it's not just a little bit of demand, it's a significant amount of demand. And we have an existing infrastructure that's been there for 100 years, right? And it was designed a certain way. Now we're talking about having power on the distributed side, being able to say, okay, here, we'll have multiple generation solutions over here. What always blows my mind, back to my linear thinking, there was always a system operator. The system operators would match supply and demand. And it was very straightforward, matching supply and demand.
Steady state.
Yeah, right. It's going. Okay, good. Now, there are so many sources of power that are feeding into that grid.
Exactly.
I have no idea, and it's got to be a technology solution of some sort to be able to manage that load in such a way that it ensures that me as a customer, say I'm a customer now, me as a customer has quality, safe, reliable power, and don't come to me and say that my rates have to increase. Don't come to me and then I come home and all my clocks are blinking because you turned off my power for whatever reason. This still is the expectations of the customer. It is just a complete, you still don't. I don't want to notice it.
That's right.
And you go do whatever you want over here and have a grand time.
Yeah.
But doggone it, when I flip that switch, it better be on.
And it's even worse now when you think about the reindustrialization and the whole use of data centers and AI data centers. That customer has a different expectation. We can live with a flicker. I mean, we can live with the flicker. That flicker comes from power quality. So
Yes.
we basically there was Edison who built the Pearl Street Station in New York. It was a DC, they created the power and DC direct power. We could have been a DC society, but we didn't. We went AC. But you know what a wind farm and a solar farm creates? That's DC power. It has to come up. It's got to be inverted. So we're not using transformers, we're using inverters. It's the exact opposite. Instead of taking something and stepping it up and then stepping it down, we're taking something that is not even the same kind of power. And when we do, it becomes dirty power.
Oh,
we
yeah.
get a lot more transmitters,
Oh, yeah.
a lot more harmonics. That causes a flicker for you. But if I've got a robotic plant, it can cost me $1 million. If it hits a data center, it can cost mega millions. So they're saying, not only do I need power, but I need pure power. I need a clean power. And the utility are saying, you want us to, and it's funny too, when we say the demand is increasing, in the last 20 years, it's been flat in the United States.
Yeah.
It's increasing 8% per year over year. That is a huge increase because we don't have that transmission. We're shutting down coal plants. In the nuclear plants are being, there's only one been brought up in 30 years. So change is great because it lets people like you and I talk about the change. That's the next thing I want to talk about, industrial talk.
Yeah.
How's it been? How's it going? And what's your vision for it?
You know what my vision has always been with Industrial Talk is being able to highlight the professional women and men in industry, just in general. Just say, let's take it from a macro perspective. I'm not going to sit there and say, I'm niche-y here. I'm going to just focus on manufacturing or oil and gas or whatever. I took it up to a macro level and called it industrial because what I am finding more and more each and every day that all of these industries are interconnected more and more and more, right? But it's the celebration of these individuals. It always gets down to the people. Sure, there's technology. Sure, there's innovation. Great. It's all wonderful. And it's cool. And it's shiny. And it sparkles. Love it. But the reality is, it gets down to that human equation. I don't care where you're at. You could talk about AI. Fine, talk about AI. Where's the human element?
Yeah.
It's always going to be there. And we have to, in Industrial Talk and others like you and others, we have to do our best to promote why industry is such a great profession. Because we have to do that. We have to make it sound. I think we dropped the ball as a country when we started to say, the only avenue for kids is college.
That's exactly
And that
right.
just sort of left a portion or percentage of kids not knowing what to do. The promotion of that was industry, dirty, bad, hard, hot, whatever that the marketing was. Smelly.
Yeah.
Whatever that marketing was. College, great, golden, wonderful, So you had this transition. And now we, as a country, we're saying, hey, let's bring in more manufacturing. Do administration, bring in more manufacturing. Let's just bring in more. Let's create more opportunity. Where do we get the people?
Exactly right.
How do we train them? Are we training them? When I was a lineman, I went through an apprenticeship program.
Right.
I started out as a grunt, a ditch digger. And then I went through the program, 4.5 years later, became a journeyman, right? And then I had another 6 months to become a second step journeyman. But all along, I'm learning from being in the field,
Right.
from the old pros, right? We need to figure out how to embrace that.
We need it in manufacturing too, because if you think about, because when you were saying that, I was thinking about linemen and I was thinking about people in the power industry having a huge problem with that. Okay, and the second problem is, it's fine when we have a steady state, even an 8% growth steady state. But guess what? We also have fires in California, hurricanes.
Yeah.
We have so the idea that when something goes down, you need truck rolls. And on those trucks have to be people that know what they're doing, because they're going into electricity. It's incredibly dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
The number one, for every injury that you have in the power industry, for every 10, you have a death. It's not like, oh, I hurt myself and I'm out of work. The OSHA reportable for industrial is one thing. The OSHA reportable for electrical is death. It's not good. And if you didn't die, you sometimes hope you did, because the power comes in and it goes out somewhere. So we've got that problem in this industry to make sure that people could go into harm's way. I mean, I saw a truck. It was sitting in water in Houston when the last one hit, and they were trying to make power back. And I thought to myself, you can't do that. Somebody who drove that truck into the water while you're doing they didn't know. It was just a situation where it let me know very clearly that when we bring safety into it, sometimes it keeps people from going into the industry, because their wife, their mother, they says, you're not going there. You're not going into the Army. You're going to get killed. Well, you're not going into the power industry. The power industry has done a brilliant job of making sure people are trained and are safe and not going into harm's way. We need that same thinking in every factory that is rebuilt or built or restaffed or whatever. I agree with you.
Yeah, but the challenge I always think is, where is that education? I always break it down into 3 legs.
Okay.
Education, right? Real. I don't see, because things are happening so rapidly within manufacturing, within industry, do we have an education system that's nimble enough to keep up, right? Because it's fast. Is the education quality to ensure safety, to ensure the level of skill is there? And that's one thing. The other leg is the collaboration. I don't care where you go. You better have conversations with individuals. You better have that network of people that you can depend on, and that goes in with manufacturing. Find those individuals that you can have those conversations. Collaborate with them. Find out what works and what doesn't work. Get that knowledge, right? And then, of course, there's that innovation. Whether we like it or not, it's happening. So those are the 3: education, collaborate, and innovate. And you see it here. But my big passion with Industrial Talk is really focused on that education component. The other aspect is that marketing of industry and making sure that everybody understands that industry is just it's an exciting time. I wish I was younger.
And it's a great career for people that don't want to go to college. I think there are more sociologist majors that are driving the Ubers.
Yeah.
And they're not making any money because they got a degree in sociology. And if they'd have gone into it, like IBEW is a great training program.
Yeah.
The short training programs just like that, whether it's plumbing or everybody's looking for welders. We still make stuff out of steel. These are great careers that people retire with $1 million in their 401k that you would not have had if you're a sociology major driving an Uber, right? So all of that's happening. Well, I'm inviting you to be one of our alliance partners here at APC Media. And that just means we want to tell your story and share
I love
it
it.
out there. And then I
I'm all
want
there.
you to also be an alliance partners. The next thing we do over at Industrial Talk, we talk about SARA, the Safety and Reliability Association,
I love it.
aimed right at industrial and commercial.
Love it.
Thank you, my friend. Good
Cheers,
to
my
see
friend. Thank you. Good to
Always
see
make
you.
sure we're together.
What a show.
Well, actually, you're loud and you have rock music, and I listened to
Small world.
Led Zeppelin, and you told me it was Japanese.
Well, there was Japanese jazz. All right.